This kind of life, I guess, living in the hill country and being where nature is just such a primary character of the story, was kind of part of our story from the beginning, because we met a quarter of a mile across the highway from here, brought our boys on vacation almost every summer to this part of the state, and always said, you know, that's the place we'd like to go back to.
Finding this little place that could combine some degree of civility, you know, we're not too far from healthcare, HEB, fill in the blank, and we can have our little agricultural experiments going on, and you know, that's great fun. We have a fence on one side of our property, all the rest is open, and so the wildlife comes and goes, and we can have multiple species of deer and you name it, coyotes, feral hogs. It's just all here, and having that combination for me is just like a boyhood dream.
My earliest memories of both of my grandmothers and our families always centered around something to do with food. I mean, we are a family that critiques the food a lot, and I don't mean that in necessarily a negative way, but if it's a recipe that we're trying for the first time, you know, people have different opinions on, ooh, I think that would have probably needed a little bit more garlic or needed a little bit more cayenne or something like that.
My mom's chili is one of those smells and feels that is, you can't draw a smell, but if you could, I could draw this one. It's so clear, and I have such strong memories of eating it at my grandparents' house, at me, mom, and papa's house. And anytime she cooks cornbread, it's just, again, it's like a greatest hits for me, culinarily, and yeah, it means a lot because it does remind me where I come from, really.
Your beautiful kitchen. It just makes me happy to come in and all the bright colors you have. And every time I come in here, I've been here a few times, I just get happy.
Thank you.
So,
wow, let's get happy making some good food today.
Yeah, that sounds good. So tell us what you're going to do.
So when we first started talking about this, I thought, well, which side of my family am I going to think about when I think about food? Because food's been part of really both sides of my mom and my dad's side, but my dad's side was a little more in keeping with this place, which is more farm and country. So, and he had a really special recipe for chili, so we're going to make chili today. And I thought, what goes with chili? And my grandmother's cornbread, which I believe she made at every single meal. Growing up,
a staple.
That was like sliced bread. At her house, it was cornbread. So. Wasn't sure what her recipe was. I think my grandmother was orphaned at 8. Well, not orphaned, but her mother passed at 8. So she was the cook for the family starting at 8 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Which that's a pretty
That's a tall order. That is a tall order.
I don't think I could have done that as
Yeah. So cornbread must have been an early thing she learned.
Maybe. And I had her cookbook, so we're cooking cornbread.
Oh wow! Look at this cookbook, and I love how you can tell the pages are all very tattered, and it's kind of coming apart.
Exactly.
Which means it was used.
That's right.
Yeah.
And like we're going to do today, we're going to do a little bit of changing on both recipes. We're going to fudge on my dad's chili just a little bit to upgrade it. He used dehydrated onions. We're going to chop a real onion.
The fresh.
My grandmother already made changes in the cookbook because her recipe called for 1 cup of flour and 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal, but she switched them around. So I think she liked cornbread a little more cornier than the recipe did. So we're going to start with cornbread. I've got the oven heating up the skillet, or I don't have it heating up yet, but I will.
This looks like an older pot.
Yeah, that's the pot we'll make chili in, and that's actually the pot my dad made his chili in. So
Wow!
I'm trying to keep
a lot of history
tools.
here. Yeah.
Tools from family members so I can think about them when I'm cooking their
Oh,
recipes.
and that's how love gets passed through the generations, I think, through cookbooks that have had markings in them, and you actually see your grandmother's handwriting and the thought that went into it, and then to have the actual utensils. And you said you have a utensil here that was your grandfather's?
Actually, it's my dad's knife, but one of our sons had, I don't know what you call the people that make knives, redo the handle and gave it back to me at Christmas last year. Yeah, so we'll chop that onion with my dad's.
Just think about the hand that was on there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, so Emily, you want to dive into cornbread? Have you ever made cornbread before?
I've never made cornbread.
All right.
I'm really
Well,
excited to learn.
no time like the present.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's a pretty easy thing to make, and it cooks pretty quickly. So, according to my grandmother, it's best with 1 cup of cornmeal and 3/4 of a cup of flour. So let me get a
Start with the cornmeal.
measure here.
So this is Lamb's.
Yeah, that's Texas cornmeal.
Wow. So cool. Go Texan.
yeah.
I feel like we used this brand yesterday when we were making everything. Our what was it called?
I don't think we used
King Ranch chicken. We had that. It had this Go Texan.
Right. That just means it's a Texas
Yeah.
brand.
There we go.
All right. More the better, I think,
More the
according
better.
to her.
Perfect.
Great. And 3/4 of a cup of
Flour.
flour. Yeah. So,
There we go.
and why don't we just.
So you said 3/4 cup of this? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, LouAnne, I know that you have chickens. So is
These
this some of your eggs?
They are. Right from the
Oh.
coop down the hill.
So this is very authentic. We're doing this almost like Grandma did with the chickens.
Almost. And we have the air
yes.
conditioning turned off. So it really is
It's a
almost
beautiful
like grandmother
day.
did it.
Yes,
I'm gonna
nice
grab
breeze
the milk
coming
from the
through.
refrigerator.
Perfect.
Okay.
Did you see these
Look at these
goat
eggs, Em. Oh, I know.
salt
It's
and peppers?
so cute.
So funny. I love that.
And look at the shape of these eggs. You can tell this is something you don't pick up at the grocery store.
So look at that.
So cute.
I bet I don't have a full cup. So we're gonna cheat a little bit
Okay.
and make it even better.
Oh, a little half and
'Cause,
half.
Extra
Yeah.
half and half always improves
that always-
everything. So,
Creamier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little
so
more
you
cream
can
in
crack
there.
those two in there and
Okay, perfect. We were talking about people have different ways of cracking eggs open, and mine was always to do it on the side of the.
Yeah.
Is that your method, or do you have another
yeah,
methodology?
you'll see some of those eggs, our chickens are getting on in years, so sometimes the eggshell is a little bit delicate. And
I can tell
I
it
get,
is. Yeah.
I get nervous if I'm doing it on the counter that I'm just going to leave
Have
the
come open.
egg on the counter. So that just gets
Let's
mixed
stir
up a
this
bit.
up. Okay.
Yeah, and actually I've got butter melting in the microwave. Can I step around the corner and I will pick
Yes,
that
of
up?
course. Get this mixed up in there. So I remember that my grandma would put, when she had her chickens, she would put out shells and let the chickens eat those, and supposedly that helped the eggs
Yeah, we
get stronger.
actually bake them in the oven at 350 for
Oh.
10 minutes. And that, I guess, kills any weirdness that the chicken might have had. And then we grind them up. I actually have a little food processor that I use to grind up the chicken shells.
Oh, really?
Put them back in the scratch.
And put it out in their chicken scratch, and then
Okay, so what else? Baking powder. I think, what do we have of baking powder? 3 teaspoons of baking powder.
3 teaspoons.
Yeah, and 2 tablespoons of sugar, which I also need to fetch. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Look at her cute cherries.
Those are really fresh.
I wonder if those tomatoes are out of her garden. Are those tomatoes out of
They
your
are
garden?
not. It's a little too early.
Because I know you have a garden.
I do.
Tell
but,
us about your garden real quick too. After we finish putting this together, I'd love to hear about it.
Or 2 tablespoons
Two.
sugar.
2, yeah. And then we just
Dump it all
put it all
together.
together and just like
Okay.
magic. Yeah, a lot of southern cornbread doesn't have any sugar in it at all. This
Oh.
recipe is a little bit sweet, not too sweet. Though.
cornbread can go savory or sweet.
Yeah.
Can almost go either direction.
Well, an interesting story about cornbread in my dad's family is once the meal was over, whatever cornbread was left, at least my grandfather and my dad crumbled into a glass and filled the glass with milk, and that was dessert.
Oh my goodness!
Which I will not subject you to today. But isn't that an interesting?
So interesting.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
so A, you didn't waste the cornbread.
There you go. There was
B,
another use for it.
Yeah, it kind of made milk like a dessert. Funny thing, because my mom's mother also drank milk as a dessert, but she drank buttermilk and would put, here, I'm going to let you share this away.
Love to do
She
that.
would put salt and pepper in her buttermilk.
Really?
So she had this thick layer of black pepper on top of it, drinking buttermilk for dessert. So
And for dessert.
milk for dessert was something
Interesting.
in those two families.
Yeah. Did they have their own cow that they milked,
No,
or this was
no.
just something that they
My
enjoyed
dad grew
doing?
up in a little town northeast of Dallas called Wolf City.
Oh,
you
never
ever
heard
heard
of
of
that.
Yeah, it's near, kind of near Greenville, Commerce, Texas.
Oh,
that
okay.
area.
Yeah, know where that
And,
is.
They had a farm, but I don't believe they had. They may have had a cow. I didn't,
Yeah.
if so, he never mentioned it. But so when they moved eventually to Dallas, they kind of didn't bring the farm with them, except for a goose. And my grandmother had a guard goose.
A guard goose.
A guard goose in
They
the
can
yard.
be
and
noisy.
I am telling you, they are effective guard animals.
They're kind of, yeah.
Yeah, super aggressive.
Aggressive.
I just remember as a kid
Protective.
running from the car to the front door of the house for fear of my life. You know.
Get away from the
to
goose.
escape.
Yeah, so at 400 we've been actually heating this pot up, so be super careful dumping that
Okay,
in so we don't
listen.
burn
Okay.
yourself.
There's
but
nothing like a cast iron skillet.
Yeah, I love how you're making it in cast
So
iron.
crunchy.
that is many years of seasoning, so
You've had it for a while.
yeah, I pretty much only cook on cast iron.
What gives it a nice crisp.
Yeah, is that why?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
The
like
crust,
old timey
uh-huh.
Teflon, because if it gets seasoned well, nothing sticks to this thing.
Right.
All right, so
Hey, time to go in the oven. And then
Yeah.
how long, what
it's gonna
temperature
cook,
and
it's
how
at
long?
400, and it's
Okay.
going to cook for about 20 minutes. And putting putting the skillet in the oven ahead of time really isn't part of the recipe, but I find that it gives it a little bit
Makes it
more
a
of
little
a crunch.
I love that crunch. And then
so-
soft on the inside.
Done with that.
All right.
Okay, you want to start with
Great.
chili? Just want to roll
Sure.
right in. We can
Yeah.
cook
do it.
chili
Let's
while,
do it.
while we're waiting for cornbread.
I saw the chickens and goats when I came in here, and we used the fresh eggs in this recipe. So how is it raising chickens and goats? Tell me about that.
Let's see. When I was teaching music in Dallas at one of the campuses of the community college, there was a veterinary technician program.
Okay.
And I thought that if I hadn't been a musician, I would have been a veterinarian.
Wow.
So I thought, hey, maybe they'll let a faculty member audit the classes. So I started taking all the classes. And one of the requirements was you spent 1 day a week working in the kennel with dogs and cats, and you spent 1 day a week working on the farm. And the farm had a stallion and 4 mares, and it had a little herd of goats. And that's where I fell in love with goats.
Okay.
So that was 36 years ago.
Wow.
And I said, someday I'm going to have
Have
those
my own
goats. So we got miniature goats. So yeah,
They're so cute.
They're
They're a handful.
they are. A friend of mine here said, if you want a fence that keeps goats in, install a fence and throw a bucket of water at the fence. And if the water can get through the fence, so can the goats. So
Wow. Sounds like
good
a solid
advice.
fence.
So we opted for the more expensive, sturdy fence because I feel sure we'd be chasing our goats all over the neighborhood otherwise.
Right.
They're cute. what they lack in behavioral control,
Yeah.
they make up for in cuteness.
How about the chickens?
Oh, chickens! Golly, I always thought we had to have a rooster to have eggs.
Okay.
Learned, luckily, that wasn't the case. Unfortunately, what I didn't learn was sometimes those little bitty fluffy chickens, though they look like a hen when you get them, maybe they're not a hen after all. So we now have a rooster. We didn't really want one, but
Does he wake you up in the morning?
oh
How
boy,
can you do?
every morning. And I'm surprised we may hear him before we're finished here today. He's quite a boisterous, but chickens are easy. They're kind of peaceful. They, for the most part, get along with each other. And once you get used to your own farm eggs,
There's no going
really, really hard to use eggs from the grocery store.
I think it's so cool that you came from Dallas, like the big city, and then you're out here in the country now. The country.
I found my inner farm girl.
Ah.
I just wish my dad had lived long enough to see this, because I think he would have
He would have
really liked it.
Yeah.
Oh,
He'd be proud.
That's awesome.
For sure.
All right, so on to chili. Now, chili is kind of like pizza, I think. Everybody says I have my favorite way of doing it. And I have a confession to make. This is not the way I normally make chili. My dad's chili was Texas chili, which is no beans.
Right.
I really like beans in chili, so somewhere along the way I started adding pinto beans to mine.
Yeah.
Just a preference, I guess.
Sometimes using a chili mix.
Oh.
He didn't do that.
Yeah, that's okay because it wasn't available.
Maybe that's the
Yeah,
reason.
we have some of those things now.
So what did he use a seasoning instead?
He used what we're going to use today. I mean, we're going to do it his way.
His way, okay.
This is just not the way I normally do it. Now,
I see.
if you are blessed to be in a neighborhood with a little country grocery store like we have, and a butcher that will take a chuck roast and grind it into chili meat, you're going to have a much better chili.
That is so fresh.
So
Yeah.
this is
Beautiful.
primo chili meat from John Sheffield at our little Ingram Market.
Yes,
So
he's such a nice guy.
Nice guy, yeah. And
Yes.
so we're going to just stick this in the pot and let it start browning.
Your dad's pot he made the chili in.
That's right. And actually,
It's nice and thick.
the only negative part of having a really high quality chili meat is sometimes you have to actually even add a little bit of oil because it
it's
just
not
doesn't have
as much fat in it.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with this
See
one.
how it rolls.
Yeah. So
right.
that can be done now. Who wants the unpleasant task of chopping it?
I'll take it.
Okay.
I feel like
Okay.
You can bring into center
Yeah.
stage with the onion,
There you go.
How long does the beef need to brown?
Oh, and well, it'll probably take 5 minutes,
5
maybe
minutes,
5 or
okay.
6 minutes.
And then I just dice this onion, is that correct?
Yeah, if you want to slice it in, I'll show you a shortcut if you
Okay.
want one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, just cut it straight down the
in
middle.
half, okay.
That's a good way to start it, and then it's much easier to peel that way. So just try to peel that outside skin off.
This looks like a very fresh onion as well.
Sometimes I have to sacrifice the whole outside layers.
Right.
It seems like they don't grow. Have you ever found that? It's like it doesn't grow in a
Completely
perfect circle.
in a
Yeah. So then if you'll slice down one more time,
Okay.
and then this way, you're going to have a beautiful dice.
So slice here or here?
Turn it up on its end,
Okay.
slice long ways down.
Down?
Yep.
Okay.
Careful with your
My fingers.
fingers.
I'm smelling it now.
Yeah.
Is this a yellow onion?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
on its side.
yeah, kind of hold it because it will
Okay.
wander, and slice long ways. Just chink, 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 chink.
Oh, long ways. Okay.
Wow.
How's this?
I'm watching and learning.
I feel like there are so many ways to chop an onion, but this seems to be pretty efficient.
Well, it's
It does.
fast, which is the good thing for me because I don't know. I've never found the secret tool that keeps you from getting, from crying.
From crying. Yeah, because you want to do it as quick as possible so that
That's right.
Yeah.
avoid that. Wow, this is very quick. I mean, I'm always scared I'm going to chop a finger off, so I go a little slow, but this is quick.
And we're in the country, so we're not going to get out the measuring tools to find out if every dice is exactly the same. We're going to love it the way it is, and every piece of onion is not going to be the same size. So,
I like it.
yeah, so knock yourself out. The other side too.
Perfect.
Heavy on onions for this recipe.
You can never have too many onions for me.
Yeah, I love onions.
Onions and garlic.
That's so much flavor.
Speaking of, we're going to use Fiesta brand garlic from San Antonio.
Oh,
so this is also something my dad did not use. He used powdered garlic, but I am going to use the kind that some other poor person has already peeled.
Yeah. Always like to know what those hacks are to make it a little bit easier.
You know, sometimes when I'm feeling, you know, especially domestic, I'll get several bulbs of garlic and roast them slowly and keep them in a jar of oil in the refrigerator. But
and they're ready to
none
pull
of that
out
right now, so this is kind of the next best thing.
Perfect.
All right, so that will go once we see a little more brown on our chili meat.
Take a look at that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's getting there, but as you can see, not a lot of fat in there.
Yeah.
Virtually none in the bottom. So as it starts getting brown, we may find that we have to add a tiny bit of olive oil or something to keep it from sticking to the bottom of the pan. But so far, so good. That looks great.
That's a healthy additive, so that's okay.
Yeah. And you know, I'm one of those people that likes to measure everything and then just dump it in. So you may want to do that. We're going to measure out. Let's see. Let me find a little tiny bowl. Here we go.
Like that orange bowl.
Mexican orange.
So we're going to put spices in here. How about a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of that black pepper from the goat, a teaspoon of salt.
I love the goat.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to incorporate goats and chickens as much into our home decor as possible. And one of salt.
Yeah, that is such a cute way to do it. It's always handy. So is that like a kosher salt?
It is. It's a kosher salt, kind of a thicker one than I normally buy. I don't know. And then chili powder. So a full 1/4 of a cup of chili powder, and then at least half more. This is a kind of a spicy chili, but we like it spicy.
So, you know, chili, most people will agree, was founded in Texas.
Really?
Yes, in fact.
I did not know that. And then half of that again.
Okay.
In fact, in New Braunfels was one of the first chili parlors.
Come on.
It was.
I did not
You
know
wouldn't think
that.
so with
How interesting.
more of a background of a German culture, but they were making chili.
How about that? So 1 teaspoon of this equals a clove of garlic, so we can just add 2 teaspoons of that into the onions, and we'll be ready to dump that in
2
when
teaspoons.
this meat gets brown.
Smells so good.
You know, some people
Smell
use
it.
ground meat for chili. I've never been one that had good luck with grocery store chili meat. Sometimes I find a little bit of
more.
gristle and things in there, so that's why I'm so thankful for my friend John at Ingram Market, because he can
Make it
get
just the way you want
get
it.
the way you want it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna.
And it
wait for
is
that
the
to
main
do.
ingredient in chili. So
Yeah, with
it's
crummy
important.
meat, it's kind of crummy chili.
yeah,
You're exactly right.
It makes it or breaks
Okay,
it.
so sorry, there's not anything more complicated than this. This is it.
Sorry, that's
We're
wonderful.
going to throw this can of tomato paste in
Yeah.
there. We're going to throw a couple of cups of water, and poof, we're going to make chili. So,
So easy.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
it
Love
is.
it.
Yeah.
And so flavorful. Can't wait.
So this was whose recipe?
My
This was
dad's.
your
My
dad's recipe.
And,
okay.
No, I don't, unfortunately. One of those things you wish you'd asked your parents before you didn't have them around to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know where he got it, if he made it up.
Yeah.
He was one that enjoyed certain kinds of cooking. Of course, he loved grilling outside, and he loved making chili. He also loved making peanut brittle and divinity, which are both things. Frankly, I
Hard.
have never mastered
They
either
are
one of those.
hard. Talk about the weather. It has to be perfect for both of those.
Yeah. So here he was, you know, typical dad, came home from work at 5:30 at night. He certainly wasn't the primary cook of the family, but those particular things he sort of owned those. And
He
that's what,
owned
that's
those.
what he did.
Yeah. So LouAnne, tell me about your family. How did they get to Texas? What is their story?
I'm not really sure about my grandfather's family, but I know my grandmother's family came from Georgia and relocated through some permutation to the country in Northeast Texas. So they started raising their family there, and I'm not sure about my granddad's family. We've never been able to actually find much on them, but so lots of relatives too. So I think my grandmother had several sisters, and they all moved, I guess, after the sisters were born together to Commerce or to Greenville, and don't know how they got from there to Wolf City or whether they started in Wolf City, but all those little towns are very close by. So,
And what about your ancestors? How did they get to the U.S.?
Well, I don't know about those.
Yeah.
That side of the family. The other side of the family, my mom's side of the family, my maternal grandmother's father was a stowaway on a ship coming from Ireland. At least that's the story. Came over.
It's a great story.
Yeah. So
Hang on to that.
She really was very proud of her Irish heritage, and that was something we really wanted to. We talked about taking her to Ireland. It was one of those things we just never got around to. You know, if you can, don't put those things off.
Yeah.
Wish I hadn't put it off.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So that that's the Irish side of the family.
Very cool.
9 kids and
my
lots of brothers and sisters on that side who all kind of congregated out after leaving Oklahoma to San Antonio. So San Antonio for us, though we grew up in Dallas, was kind of a family destination for vacations, visiting relatives.
Holidays.
Checking in on folks. So spent a lot of time in San Antonio.
Pretty close here.
All right, you know what? I think it's time to throw those onions and all that stuff in.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, the whole shebang. Just
I bet nothing ever burns in this pot because it just looks like it's so thick
pretty
that
heavy.
you don't have to worry too much about it.
And funny, you know, you have funny memories of food. I never remember him making chili that I don't think about it at this stage when it's kind of gray. The meat is kind of gray and the onions. That and before all the chili powder, it's not terribly appetizing looking yet.
But it sure,
gets
from my
better.
point, it smells really good right now.
But that was my oops. All right,
that cornbread is done.
talking to us. So let's check it. I think we're ready to take it out. Emily,
Okay.
brave. So I think we've got a few more.
Oh, here we go.
Whoa, watch your knees. Yeah, terrific.
That looks perfect. It rose just the right amount.
While those onions are softening, we can just go ahead and dump all the spices in too.
Okay.
Then it
sounds
really
good.
will start looking like chili. Give that a big stir. Yeah, chili powder's kind of like chocolate, you know. You don't want to leave any of it in the bowl.
You want all of
waste
it. Yeah. I always find myself looking at what the recipe calls for and the amount of chili powder and adding more.
Yeah. Well, and we always reserve the right to adjust this. So
Yeah.
we'll taste it as it
There
goes
you
along. If
go.
it feels like it needs a little bit more. I was surprised to kind of revisit this and realize all those other things you think about putting into chili. I guess I was surprised how few ingredients. It seems like
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
All
the
right,
chili
good.
powder is the secret ingredient.
It is, and that
Smells
particular brand, I think, is the one I remember my dad using. So we're going to give that a minute or two. Not long though. And we're going to put that tomato paste in there and add 2 cups of water.
2 cups of water. Should I go ahead and dump it?
Sure.
All right.
Chili is pretty forgiving. You know, truth be told, you could probably dump everything in the pot at the same time, and it would still turn out tasting about the same. But that would make for a very short TV program. So
It would.
wouldn't want
But this
that.
is not taking long at all. I mean, this is definitely
yeah, it's pretty fast.
something that you can mix up in less time than it takes to go run to Taco Bell or
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there's one. Let's get one more. I've
There
made
you
chili
go.
recipes, you know, where you chop up expensive cuts of meat and
Right.
mix various kinds of meat, and
Do you always just come back, gravitate back to
these
this
kind of
then?
tried and true ones just
Yeah.
seem to taste the best.
The
to me. I think
original.
part of family history is not just the actual recipe, but it's the smell in the
It
kitchen.
is.
It's the it's
Smells
the
bring
flavor.
back
Yeah,
so many
yeah,
memories,
exactly.
don't they?
Yeah, so
And
that's
this
gonna,
smells like comfort food to me.
Yeah, that is gonna just spend, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes on the stove, and
Okay.
we're pretty much ready to roll.
All right.
Yeah, hey, I think lunch is ready. We've got cornbread, we've got chili, everything's ready to go.
Great. Okay. Well, we have a little something for you. So you have joined the ranks of the Texicurians.
Oh my gosh.
So
Thank
this
you
is
so
just for you.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the
Thank
club.
you.
Yeah. Oh, that was so much fun. LouAnne prepared a chili dish that was her father's. So we're not going back too many generations here. We did make a cornbread dish that was her grandmother's dish. She said her grandmother pretty much served cornbread at every meal. So when she thinks of cornbread, she thinks about her grandmother. Chili is definitely something that most research shows that it was started in Texas, and every person has their specific way of making chili. They have certain spices they use. Do you add beans? Do you not add beans? Are you strict with beef? Are you using, what type of beef are you using? What types of spices? There's so many variations of it, and she did a very simple form of it today, and it was absolutely delicious, and it brought back lots of memories of her father. It's going to be an adventure, a true adventure, to hear the stories that we're going to hear on upcoming episodes as we delve into a specific culture, a specific region. I think that we're going to be surprised on every single front by what we hear.